Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I've got something a little different for you. Behind me is this Alpine A110. And what it is, well, it's a breath of fresh air. In a world where sports cars are getting heavier, more digital and more complicated, this little Alpine refuses to follow the trend. It doesn't chase big horsepower, rely on trick differentials or adaptive dampers. Instead, it sticks to the one golden rule. Keep it light, keep it simple, make it fun. On paper at least, this is the purest driving car you can buy today. But does lightweight engineering still count in 2025? Let's find out, shall we? Before we get into that though, let me give you a quick history lesson. The Alpine A110 name goes back to the 1960s, when Alpine, at the time an independent French brand, built lightweight rear-engined rally monsters that absolutely dominated events like the Monte Carlo Rally. Many decades passed and eventually Renault bought the Alpine name, and now they're back, keeping the spirit of lightweight sports cars alive. There are some quite obvious signs of its Renault DNA, disappointingly. Namely this, the key. You get the same key as you'd find on a 2003 Renault Megane, which is a bit disappointing to be honest. Although you do at least get a nice leather pouch for it. It's not too bad. They could have done a better job there though. Also, the indicator stalks and the audio controls are straight out of an old Clio. Anyway, let's not get bogged down with the Renault parts bin specials because the rest of the car is actually very good. Styling wise, I'll be honest, I was never really convinced. These cars came out in 2017, so they have been on the road now for a good 7 or 8 years. And although you don't see them every day, they are quite rare. Every time I've seen one, I've thought, I'm not sure if that works. But now having spent a couple of weeks with this, I've changed my mind. I think it's a really good looking car. When you look at the original A110 from the 60s, I think this is the perfect modern interpretation of that. They haven't overdone it. I think it's just perfect. Although it's unapologetically a new version of the old A110, you can see other cars in it as well. For example, this front angle here reminds me very much of the 90s Celica. I think it was the GT4. This here, this sort of menacing headlight, is very much Jaguar F-Type. Standing at the side as well, I can see a little bit of R8. Because it's mid-engine, you obviously need some ventilation. Now these vents here are very reminiscent of a 911. The back reminds me very much of that Rolls-Royce boat tail concept. Overall though, it works. I think it's a really well thought out design. And it turns a lot of heads. This gets a lot of attention, especially in this colour. I think it's called Glacier Blue, and it's beautiful. This car's proof that with clever engineering, you don't need some silly, over-the-top, obnoxious, Fast and the Furious style ironing board spoiler on the back. Instead, what you get is an actual clever diffuser down here, which keeps you nice and planted. I also like the single exhaust. I love the design of the wheels, and you get some nice matching calipers. I also like this little air intake here, which feeds cold air straight into the engine. It's just a nice clever design. You also got the French tricolour there, tricolor. Quite often modern interpretation of old cars can be retro just for retro's sake, but this isn't. This is a really clever design. Although it's a small car, it isn't completely impractical. You could use this for a long weekend away, as long as you don't mind wearing the same clothes on day 1, day 2 and day 3. But if you'd rather not wear your pants inside out, there are 2 boots in which you can store maybe another pair. Have a look at this. If you're used to travelling Ryanair, you might think this is quite accommodating. Have a look. That's your boot. And one word of warning, it does get quite hot in there. Because of its proximity to the engine, whatever you put in there will be quite warm. So maybe don't put your egg mayonnaise sandwiches in there, because you might have a bad stomach. There is another boot as well, let me show you that. So that's up front. You probably could, at a push, get 2 carry-on cases in there. While I'm here actually, I should point out the quad LEDs. I know that's a nod to the original A110, but I like it. Looks really good. Right, let me tell you about the inside then, before I turn the same colour as the car. Well, as soon as you get in the Alpine, you'll notice it's very driver focused. You only get what you really need with this. You can tell it's made for the racetrack. And to be perfectly honest with you, I hate cars like that. And I say that because most people use the cars to drive to work or drive to the shops. You don't need a 3-point racing harness. But at least with the Alpine, they have tried to find a happy medium. For example, these fixed bucket seats that you can't adjust, by the way, are at least finished in nice Alcantara and quilted leather. The only way you can adjust these seats, by the way, is forward or back. That's it. You get some nice carbon fibre touches. I love this quilted leather on the door panel. I also love the nice leather door handles. I also like the fact that they've brought the exterior colour into the interior. Now on a cheaper hatchback like a VW Up, for example, that always reminds me of cost cutting, but with this I think it's a nice addition. My biggest gripe with this car so far, and there's no real way around it, is the lack of storage. There just isn't any. There's no storage in the door cards, there's no glove compartment, these armrests here don't lift up like a Porsche, You get this little storage compartment here, which is big enough for your slender key. There we go, now that area is full. There's this area down here, but accessibility is, well, it's quite poor. And there's no wireless charging mat either. You'd have thought this would have a wireless charger, but no. There's some storage back here, which I use to keep my wallet and keys and my Y-Foods bottle. But that is about it. The overall build quality of the interior, in some areas, is a little questionable. This centre console here is very nice. You've got the window controls, the engine start button, the handbrake, and the gear selectors. But look at this. There's way too much flex. And you probably will hear this rattling while I'm driving. And a bit like me, it's got a screw loose. I don't know where that's come from, but it's not exactly encouraging. There's also no glove compartment, so Rover owners wouldn't be happy. There's nowhere for the string-back driving gloves. You get these nice switches here, which look nice and expensive. You'd expect them to be very weighty. They're not. If you put your finger under them, they're just cheap moulded plastic. They've got the sort of quality of a Kinder Egg toy. Although I'm sure Alpine would argue that's all about weight saving, and this is a very light car. This whole car only weighs 1,100 kilos. I'm not sure about Alpine, they should have called it the Ozempic. Anyway, enough talking, let's get it on the road, shall we? Like I said, I've always hated cars like this. They're too focused on one thing, and that just doesn't make them a good everyday car. As such, I wasn't particularly excited at the prospect of having this for 2 weeks. Whenever we get a new car dropped off, me and my team are always fighting for the keys, but that wasn't the case with this Alpine. I just wasn't that bothered. I took one look inside at these seats and I kind of knew what it would be like, or at least I thought I did. I thought it'd be stiff, uncomfortable and impractical. I thought, yes, it might be good fun on a twisty road on a Sunday morning, but on my commute from the city centre out to Stockport, I thought it'd just be a pain in the neck. You see, I like a bit of luxury. I like a nice soft ride. I don't like a stripped out sports car. However, I've instantly fallen in love with the little Alpine. I just can't get enough of it. And that's just been a total surprise. I really didn't expect to like it. It's so much fun to drive. It handles like it's on rails. It sounds great, and it's quick enough without being dangerous. It really compliments you. It makes you think you're a far better driver than you actually are. Every time I drive this car, I feel like my last name's Hamilton or Schumacher. I found it to have the perfect amount of traction as well, which is also known as not quite enough traction. It's really good fun. Good job, bad traction then. This is tricky actually. This is a good challenge for the little Alpine because I don't have a reverse camera or sensors, and I'm backing up a very narrow country road. Rear visibility is poor, to say the least, but I'm doing an alright job, I think. That's partly because the Alpine's such a narrow little car. You can't really get in too much bother with it. Watch me back straight into a Massey Ferguson now. No, we're doing alright. There we go. Voila, as they say in France. Look at the old Transit. Is that a Mark 1? Cool. Before I continue with this video, I just need to say a quick thank you to today's video sponsor. Now, if you're in the market for a used Alpine or a used car or a used motorbike, then you need to do a thorough vehicle history check before you hand over any cash. I always use a company called Car Vertical because I just find them really thorough. It's really easy to use and it isn't expensive, and it's cheaper still if you use my promo code HIGHPEAK. That's HIGHPEAK, all one word, HIGHPEAK, and you'll save yourself 20% off each and every check that you do. As you can see, then all you need to do is go to carvertical.com, I'll leave the link below in the video description, but carvertical.com, and type in the reg or the VIN. Now, this isn't just a UK thing either, it works in over 35 different countries. So it searches thousands of databases to make sure it's never been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. In addition to that, it shows you the average market value, the ownership changes, the reg plate changes, the spec. Sometimes if it has been involved in an accident, it shows you photographs of the recorded damage, so it's a really useful tool. It also shows you the average market value and what to look for. And also, you can use Car Vertical to book in a proper check, a proper inspection of the car before you hand over any money. So make sure you do a thorough vehicle history check before you hand over any cash for a used car or motorbike. And yeah, don't forget to use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off. So yeah, cheers Car Vertical for sponsoring today's video. Back to little Alpine then. Pop her in sport mode. I've also found the steering to be just about perfect. It's got a very quick steering rack, so the smallest of adjustments have quite a big outcome. Of course, the downside to that is the turning circle's pretty atrocious. What this isn't is a London black cab. It's got the turning circle reminiscent of a Volvo V70. But still, it's small enough that that's never really too much of an issue. You know what I love most about this car though? Is the fact it's just so simple. And that's the very reason I thought I'd hate it. It's funny, isn't it? It just shows really, I shouldn't have any sort of prejudice really, any preconceived ideas, because this has just blown them out of the water. I really thought the fact this is a bit of a bare bones sports car, a track focused car, I just thought I'd hate it. But that's actually one of the reasons I love it. I love the simplicity. You know, most modern cars I drive these days are just a pain in the neck. Every 5 minutes they just beep and bong and shout at you. I always make this same old joke, but they're like being in a car with Hyacinth Bouquet. Mind the pedestrian there, Richard. Mind the cyclist. Yes, I know. I don't need technology to tell me to stay in my lane or tell me there's a car in front. I can see there's a car in front. But the Alpine is refreshingly simple. The first thing I do in most modern cars is try and switch all that nonsense off. But with the Alpine, you don't have to, because it just doesn't have it. This car's a classic case of what you see is what you get. This car's all about driving pleasure, and it just makes a really nice change. I also love how small and nimble it is. Again, most cars these days are just big, bloated heffalumps. This isn't. This is like a little mosquito. It just zips around. Feels nice and playful. What this car really is, actually, is just a toy. And again, I just find that refreshing. Something else that's superb on this car is the gearbox. It uses a 7-speed twin-clutch gearbox, and the changes are instantaneous. It changes gear before you can even think about it. It is so quick. And it isn't really jerky around town either, or when you're trying to park it. It isn't easily confused like some twin-clutch gearboxes can be. The performance is great too. It's got a little 1.8 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder, and it's superb. It produces about 250 horsepower, and it's capable of 155 miles an hour, so it's plenty quick enough. But like I say, it never feels like too much power. It never feels like a handful. It feels really planted and sure-footed. And it handles like it's on rails. This feels like an excited puppy on a walk. It just wants to go all the time, especially when it's in sport mode. I've done hundreds of miles in this car, from city centre driving to motorway cruising, and it does it all really well. Even at 70, 80 miles an hour on the motorway, you can still have a conversation without raising your voice. And that's something even a 911 can't do, which is twice the price of this. With its 252 brake horsepower, this will do 0 to 62 in 4.5 seconds, so it is properly quick. That's actually as fast as an Audi S5 or a BMW 340i. And the key to this little car's performance, of course, is its slim waistline. Of course, it only weighs 1,100 kilos, which means, as a result, it's also quite good on fuel. I filled this car up before and it was completely on fumes. It was, well, there was almost no fuel in it at all, and it only took £57, so it's quite inexpensive to run. I've been averaging 35 miles per gallon as well, which is quite impressive, isn't it? You could compare this to a Porsche Cayman. They are very similar. But in comparison, the Porsche Cayman looks like a bit of a bloater. That weighs 300 kilograms more than the little Alpine. You don't have to be flat out with this car to enjoy it. Even at normal, sensible speeds, it just feels alive. You feel really connected to it. What shocked me most about this car, though, is the ride. I thought it was going to be dreadful. I thought it was going to feel like I was sitting on a skateboard going down a cobbled street, but it doesn't. It's perfectly comfortable. So much so you even forget what you're in. These seats, for example, I know they're completely inflexible, but they're totally comfortable. I spent 5 hours in this yesterday driving all the way over to Grantham in Lincolnshire and back. And when I got back, I was fine. No aches, no pains, no stiffness. The brakes are very good as well. Watch this. It will rip your face off. That's kind of what you want in a car like this. Something nippy and agile and quick. You want to be able to stop on a sixpence. I've noticed as well, and this is quite hard to not notice really, it gets an awful lot of attention, this. You drive this around the city, well, drive it around anywhere, people stop and stare, because they're just so rare. And what's really good as well is you don't feel like a bell end in it. I don't think it stinks of midlife crisis like some of its rivals. You know, it's not a cringy flash supercar. People look at you in this, but I think that's for the right reasons. Every time I've parked it up somewhere or stopped for fuel, people ask questions about it, just because they haven't seen one before. Even though this car's been on the market since 2017. It isn't perfect though by any means. I do have a few gripes. As a toy car, a weekend car, a second or third car, then I think it's about perfect. But as an everyday car, it's missing a few crucial things. For starters, there's no cup holder, and that's really irritating. I've been using this to drive to work, and I've got nowhere for my iced latte. I know I might sound like a diva there, but it is important. Also, I can forego the heated steering wheel and heated seats, but I'd quite like a reverse camera, or at the very least parking sensors. And this base model doesn't have that. I know what you're going to say, Matt, you really don't need parking sensors in a car the same size as a training shoe. But I disagree. Because the rear visibility is so poor, you could really do with some sensors or at least a camera. And I'm pretty sure a little camera wouldn't have added that much weight. The rest of my gripes really come down to build quality. Some annoying squeaks and rattles. The infotainment system's a bit poor as well. It's a bit laggy. It doesn't respond very well. And you've got to really press firmly before anything works. It's just a bit annoying. Something else that ticks me off is the ticking noise from the indicators. If you close your eyes, which you probably shouldn't do while you're driving, but if you were to close your eyes, you'd think you're in a Renault Clio. Also, as I mentioned at the start of this video, the key is awful. Anyone will think you've got a 2003 Renault Megane. They could have really done a better job with the key. It's a bit poor, that. Oh, something else, the sound system isn't great. It sounds a bit tinny and a bit cheap. But when all's said and done, none of those things would put me off buying one. I've just completely fallen for this car. Unusually, I just don't want to give it back. So this little Alpine has been a total surprise. It just goes to show you shouldn't judge a book by the cover. I'm quite chuffed, really. I quite like to be proved wrong. What this is then is a car which feels completely alive. It isn't totally ruined by technology, like most new cars are. One word of warning though, I think if you're a bigger build than I, you might struggle to get in and out of it. I've been alright with it. I'm like 5'10", 5'11". I don't even know what I weigh these days, like 11 stone or something. I've got plenty of room, plenty of headroom, plenty of leg room, plenty of elbow room. It's perfectly fine, but if you're slightly bigger, slightly larger, I think you might struggle. Most manufacturers these days have got some sort of arms race going on in terms of brake horsepower. They've got to outdo each other. We've got to the point now where things have just got silly. Things are too quick. But this little Alpine has completely ripped up the rule book. It hasn't followed the crowd. This plays the power to weight game perfectly. What I also love about this car is the noise it makes. Now, although it might only have a little 4-cylinder petrol engine, and it's turbocharged, which is a bit of a surprise because the noise it makes is almost like a supercharger whine. I don't know if my microphone will pick this up, but it's a really sort of intoxicating sound. If you floor it now, look, watch this. It's properly quick, this thing. It's so much fun. You've also got these manual paddles on the column as well, so you can change the gear yourself. And when you do, you get little pops and bangs. I don't like those pops and bangs when it's on a Golf R or some sort of Seat FR or something, because they're a bit Asbo-y, aren't they? But on this, I think it's quite characterful. This 7-speed gearbox, by the way, is superb. For years, I've always hated these kinds of cars, these sorts of track-focused cars, because I've always just written them off as being one-trick ponies. But the little Alpine A110 is not a one-trick pony. I also quite like the fact that it's unique. I've never driven an Alpine before. It's quite nice to drive something and look down at the steering wheel and have an unfamiliar badge. Let's talk about price then, because unfortunately this isn't a cheap car. The one I'm in today comes in at just under £55,000, and that is an awful lot of money. The trouble with the Alpine, and I've been trying to get my head around this, the rivals have all got just a better badge, really. It's just a more appealing proposition to buy something like a Porsche 718 Cayman or Boxster. Or, you know, something like a Toyota GR Supra, which underneath is a BMW. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I love this car, don't get me wrong, but if I was spending £55,000 of my own hard-earned cash, I think I'd be... I don't know. I don't think I'd stop by the Renault garage. And that, I suppose, is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing insofar as many people won't be able to experience these cars because there'll just be so few of them on the road. But on the bright side, they'll remain very rare. Because these have been around for 7 or 8 years, I've had a quick look on Auto Trader to see if I could find a decent used one. And surprisingly, they hold the money very well. I saw a 2018 with around 35,000 miles and it was still going for 32 grand. So I mean, on the plus side, if you buy one new, you're not going to lose a fortune in depreciation. Because I'd never looked at these cars, I'd honestly never considered one. I was kind of hoping that I could find maybe a 2018 for about 20 grand. But at 20 grand, I think, I could just about justify it. But at 32 and a half, forget it, I can't really. It would actually make more sense to buy a new one, really, for an extra £20,000. You get the full official warranty and 0 miles on the clock. One more quick point then before I wrap this video up. Most new cars, and I know I shouldn't generalise, but most new cars are all very similar. But this little Alpine, though, on the other hand, is different. Different in a good way. It's proof that you can still buy a fun driver's car that isn't completely ruined by silly driver aids. And that's cheered me up, really. So on that happy note, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, cheers guys. I'll see you next time.